With that, we'll begin with our 5-minute statements. Ms. McGhee, thank you for coming.
Thank you, Chairman Merkley. Thank you, Chairman Merkley and Senator Warren and members of the subcommittee for this opportunity to testify. My name is Heather McGhee, and I'm the president of DEMOS, a nonprofit public policy organization. As requested, DEMOS's testimony lays out the experience of inequality at the household level. Of course, it is actually a story of divergent experiences among our fellow Americans, of rapid wealth accumulation for the already wealthy at a time when half of Americans could not pay a $400 bill without going into debt or selling something. The testimony includes the tight monthly budget of Patricia Locks, who has worked at the same company for 11 years, and we compare her experience with that of her company's majority owners, the 6 richest Walton family heirs, whose net worth is higher than the combined assets of at least 41% of American households. We also describe the state of public higher education, formerly the Great Equalizer, where cuts to taxes and spending have made the new price of entry into the middle class so expensive that a student from a low-income family would have to pay 95% of her family's income to go to college for a year, and that is after financial aid. We also analyze the major structural drivers of inequality, from globalization to financialization. And the good news is that these mega trends have not made this degree of inequality inevitable. Policy choices have brought us here, and different ones can lead us out. So why have our elected representatives not taken urgent national action when the lights are dimming on the American dream? Today, a cashier who earns just $7.25 an hour can only buy $7.25 an hour worth of food for her family. She can only buy $7.25 an hour worth of education for her children. But she also only seems to merit $7.25 worth of esteem in our political culture, and most dangerously, only $7.25 worth of voice in our democracy. And I would like to spend the remainder of my time on the topic of our democracy, as the data now reveal that economic inequality and political inequality are mutually reinforcing. In a more than $8 billion election cycle, less than 1% of Americans gave over $200 to a federal candidate in 2012. And it took just 32 Super PAC donors to outspend the millions of small donors to Governor Romney and President Obama combined. So why does that matter? DEMOS has been working with a group of leading political scientists who are now able to quantify the compound effects of the distortions in our democracy on the very subject matter of this subcommittee, on our economic policies. The conclusion? When the policy preferences of the donor class diverge from those of the working and middle classes, Congress votes with the donor class. The policy divergence is most pronounced on economic issues. Significant differences between the wealthy and the general public are evident in such areas as taxes and deficits, trade and globalization, regulation of business, labor protections, the social safety net, and the overall role of government. The general public is more open than the wealthy to a variety of policy measures designed to reduce inequality and expand economic opportunity. Take the minimum wage. Over 70% of Americans, including over 50% of Republican voters, want it to be high enough so that a full-time worker can keep his or her family out of poverty. But when asked, members of the donor class, only 40% of them agree with that proposition. So add to the donor class's disapproval the 80 different corporate interests that lobbied against a wage increase in recent years, and the will of the majority gets drowned out. Or take higher education. 78% of the general public believes that the federal government ought to do everything in its power to make sure that everyone who wants to go to college can do so. But only 28% of the wealthy are in favor. Fortunately, there are solutions to political inequality. Reforms like the public financing system and the Fair Elections Now Act would allow more officials more time with their constituents and less time on call time with wealthy donors. And the good news is that money and politics reforms are extremely popular with the American public across the ideological spectrum. In fact, support for solutions from public financing to a constitutional amendment don't fall below 7 out of 10 from libertarians to progressives. Demos, when analyzing this bipartisan opinion data, actually ended up calling the report Citizens Actually United. Finally, I just will want to conclude with this. We can't strengthen our democracy and therefore our economy without remembering the urgency of addressing the root word of the word democracy, which is the demos, the people of a nation. Ours is the world's greatest experiment in democracy. The ancestral strangers who have come here with ties from every community on the globe have been met here with the promise that out of many, we could become one. But forging a sense of common purpose amidst that great diversity is not easy, and it takes leadership. No other nation has done it on the scale that we are currently endeavoring to do it, and certainly no nation for whom racial hierarchy was the economic policy for most of our history. I offer that it's no coincidence that the rules have changed to make it harder for the average American to get by over the same decades when the face of the average American has changed, and when social distance has increased between regular citizens and the nearly all-white wealthy donor class, which has such outsized influence on our policymaking. At Demos, we believe that if there is such a thing as American exceptionalism, our great diversity is its source. In the 20th century, America placed a bet on the children of immigrants and the descendants of slaves. And those public investments spurred on an economic force that changed the world. Today, the most diverse generation in American history is ready for that same commitment. For that commitment to the human capacity that lies within all of us, and to that very American idea that we all deserve an equal say and an equal chance. Thank you.